Ethan Van Sciver, the Sunbeam Pie Eater himself. And I'm glad to see his sunny disposition is still there. The only thing I regret is that he had, I think, more stuff to show me. I said, we'll do it after the Rumble flip. And then I didn't do the Rumble flip. So that's on me. Egg on my face or whatever, which is stringy. But we'll get to that stuff some other time. I really do want to be more engaging in guests and guest appearances on their shows and my show as we go on. It's been messy because people have asked me a lot to come on their shows. I'm like, I want to, but I can't commit. I cannot tell you I'll be available right then. And that sucks to say to people that you like. And you can say it as much as you want, and people will believe it or not. It doesn't matter. That's what I was saying at the beginning of the show. It doesn't matter what you say. The impression that people get will eventually become the reality. So, I was thinking about it. I know a while back, people were like, I wish you get back to law topics or whatever. Nerds. And then I was like, I didn't just do law shows. Like for a long, covered all these other topics. And I realized what I was getting to though. When I was covering Comicsgate topics, I'm talking with Tug. I'm talking with Yellow Flash. I'm talking with EVS. I'm talking with other people who are like in the Comicsgate area. We're going through issues, a lot of legal issues, and then a lot of just drama issues through Comicsgate. When the Vic shit starts, well, we're talking about anime voice acting. It's like, well, we're talking about to Yellow Flash and Tug and other guys who are super into anime, nerds and gay. And you're going, okay, I am talking about subjects that aren't necessarily law related. There are a lot of times they're related to a specific legal instance that we're looking at, but they also have this crossover into a different subculture. Like, I remember not talking about the law all the time. I go, but I also remember that involving other people and on guest appearances and talking about this stuff in an abstract way where I get to have someone else kind of carry the focus of the issue. And I get to take a step back from the legal stuff and just kind of talk about it as a friend and a person. And so I'm like thinking about this. I'm like, no wonder people are like, no, you talk law. And like that other stupid you talks about comics with a comic person. I'm like, okay. Now I'm thinking through this. Like, yeah, okay. I get that. I understand. Like, so if I want to talk about those other subjects, I should bring on people who know about them rather than me, who's just like a guy who hates everything. I got it. I'm learning here. The funny thing about doing a show like this is you get what some of my friends have called show amnesia. You do this thing so often for so long that you can't remember individual events clearly. Like you get themes and ideas. Like, oh, you remember when you said this on this show? I'm like, oh my God, I did a show like that? I did that show? When was this? And they tell you the date and you're like, I figured I was in prison at that time. I don't know. And you get this show amnesia. You don't remember what you've talked about specifically. You got general ideas, but you don't remember the specific show. And so then people are like, well, you did this and this and this. And you're like, no, I didn't. Like, that's not how it goes. It was something else. And you start to look back, which is hard to do because how do you look back? If you have 2,500 live streams, how do you pick the ones to look back on to figure out what you did and didn't do? It's not always easy. Someone gives you a link, sure. But if they don't, you go, huh, what was I doing? How was I incorporating this content that I remember really well? And I remember the content well as a theme because it's these interesting side stories, right? Constitutional law for me is really interesting, but it's one path straight forward. And so it kind of blends together as you go. It's like, it's the cedar trees on the side of the road. After 20,000 cedar trees, it's just a cedar tree. It might be interesting on its own, but there's a whole bunch right next to it. So you like that in concept, but individually you don't really get excited about it. But then you get to apply constitutional law to an issue of like comics publishing or whatever. You go, holy shit. Now this is pod racing or whatever. And you merge these things that you're interested in with a thing that makes it more engaging. You remember those things. And so then you go, oh, I used to do this, but that's what you're picking up on is these moments. So one of the things I've been wanting to get to is more guest appearances like I used to do, because it was just, it's fun, it's levity, and it's friendly, but it's also really engaging on these subjects. I get to talk about stuff I don't normally talk about with experts. How often do you get to talk to an Ethan Van Sciver or a Doug TenNapel about creating comics? How often do you get to do that in your life? That's fucking wild. How often do you get to talk to Grums, project lead on fucking Diablo 2 for Blizzard? How often do you get to talk to that guy about what makes a good video game? What makes a good dev team? What are personnel issues? What's it like struggling as an independent creator, even a guy with your name recognition? How do you tackle these issues? Why do you like anime girl belly buttons so much? And you get to these subjects and you're like, oh my God, Grums is a foremost expert in the United States on anime girl belly buttons and navels. When else would you get to talk to someone about this, of this caliber? You're never. That's the privilege of being a YouTuber, is that you get these opportunities. How often do you get to talk to Tim Pool about fence sitting and about being neutral on every subject? Like, where else can you get that? How often do you get to talk to the Quartering about like media production, grifting coffee, and really just maximizing the amount of patties on your Wendy's Colossus, which is the off-menu item? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. You have to work really hard to get there. You have to go to all the meetings. You have to speak Wisconsinite. You really, really have to like barely cooked, flat top grilled, pressed burger patties. Bailing in the shadow says, how often do you get to say StarCraft 2 is the best game? Well, I'd say very often if you're Korean, but the StarCraft 2 Korean players just keep dying from not going to the bathroom and taking a shit.